Welcome in to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. Today we're going to talk about which accounts you should withdraw from first. Now, many of you I'm talking to, those that are retired here, but if you're younger and you're listening here, it's still good to glean in on this to make sure that you know what types of accounts you're preparing and actually have these accounts because they're important. But I'm going to talk about them because there's an order, I think, that lies on conventional wisdom, but also in practicality that helps you be more efficient with your money, with your taxes, and with your investments. But before we get started, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. All right, let's get into it. Okay, there are 5 accounts I'm gonna bring up. Again, for those that are in their 20s or 30s or 40s, maybe now's a really great time to make sure that you have some of these accounts or start some of these accounts. Because for those that are in retirement, as we're talking about this, if you're 50s, 60s, 70s, and you start to think about distributions for this year, 2024, maybe you're in your 70s, RMDs coming up. Now you're looking at taking distributions along with other income sources you may need. These 5 accounts are really important that either you should pull from and the order of which you should pull it from. There's a coordination here. But also for those I think listening here and watching, there's that are starting their investment journey, you should make sure you have these 5 in your repertoire no matter what, in your arsenal, if you will, for when you do choose to take money in retirement. So number 1, cash. Cash is the first place you should go, in my opinion, for incoming retirement. Okay. By the way, this is also assuming you already have an emergency fund, which typically an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So, if, for example, you have $5,000 overhead, you should have somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 in your bank account at all times. Again, that's a rule of thumb, but it's worth it there as a cash account. Now, after that, any cash above that, that's where you should pull from. And the 2 main reasons why I think this one should go first is growth in taxes, right? Because over long periods, cash will grow more slowly than almost anything else, right? I mean, for the most part of my career, we've had very low interest paying accounts and savings accounts. Now it's a little bit different, but still relative to markets based on historical performance, they'll grow more slowly than other accounts. So you want your fast growers, which are typically some of the more aggressive assets, right, to have time to still grow. So tapping cash first allows that. And as mentioned, drawing from cash will also keep your taxes lower. And I think in your early years of retirement, which will allow you to move money, let's say, and I'll bring that up later when it comes to traditional IRA or from a pre-tax account into a Roth at lower tax rates. So those 2 things are considered, I think, for number 1. Number 1 is cash. Number 2, taxable accounts. Okay, so once you have withdrawn down to your emergency fund, for example, in your cash, you'll want to then go to your taxable investments. These include investment accounts, joint accounts, trust accounts, things like that. So again, like number 1 in the cash example, this is largely based on my experience basing this on taxes because withdrawals are likely to be taxed from this account more favorable in long-term capital gains rates than ordinary income taxes if, again, they've been held for more than a year. I would also add to this that these accounts, again, are not tax deferred, meaning, all else being equal, they will grow more slowly than a retirement account. That has a lot to do with what you're putting in the accounts, but still. So number 2, taxable accounts. Number 3, this is where you start tapping into income sources, in my opinion. Not necessarily accounts, but things like Social Security. Now, this is where things kind of get a little muddy, and I'm not suggesting that once you tap your taxable accounts, you should automatically turn on your Social Security. There are obviously a lot of break-even points based on life expectancy as well as tax and estate legacy considerations. But Social Security benefits are available to many, and as you know, they can start at early age of 62 and they max out at age 70. So Social Security Administration, they pay you every month. The more you wait, the more you claim, right? Therefore, if your goal is to maximize the income in this category, right, you want to wait longer, all right, to better it. But there is math to this. So definitely meet with your advisor about this and make sure you find which is right for you. And that leads me to number 4. Number 4 is pre-tax retirement accounts. All right, this is where we get into IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans. These are your retirement plans, likely through work, or if you're a sole employer or an entrepreneur, you would set up an individual 401k, things like that. All the accounts that I mentioned just now, you have yet to pay income taxes on. They're tax deferred. The accounts will be taxed as income upon withdrawal, which is why, to me, again, this is not like gospel here, but this is an order, right? I think it would be really good for the show to kind of talk with your advisor about this, right? But this is why the pre-tax accounts I have at number 4, because often the longer you wait, the better. However, obviously the IRS will eventually come to collect RMD, which I mentioned earlier, which is required minimum distribution. There's a certain dates, of birth dates in your 70s. You can look those up. But I think pre-tax retirement accounts are coming here. So 5th and final is Roth. So for those out there who have put money into Roth or have done Roth conversions, this is where this account comes into play. So Roth accounts grow tax-free and are qualified withdrawals. They come out tax-free if they qualify. There's two main ones, right? You have to have the account for at least 5 years and be above the age of 59 and a half. Now, outside of an HSA, like a health savings account, this is likely your most tax-efficient savings vehicle. And again, continuing with what I mentioned earlier and previously here, you want the vehicles to, that grow the most efficiently to have the longest time to accumulate. And further to that point, I'd add this. Roth IRAs under the Secure Act have become incredibly effective legacy transfer tools. You can talk to your advisor about that. So other things to consider, on this last point, and by the way, what I just mentioned there, not to get confused with Secure Act 2.0, which eliminated the pesky minimum distribution rules when there's other factors at play there. So talk with your advisor about that. But you can theoretically never withdraw from these accounts and let your kids enjoy your smart tax planning, again, potentially based on your planning. But the reason why you've done Roth, and for those of you out there, who have a Roth and are kind of like, Brad, why do you have it at number 5? So obviously you can sprinkle Roth in. Okay, so here's a good little tip going through this is the ending of the loss, all the 5. Talk with your CPA about this, but I call it the bracket game. Basically, you want to achieve, or be in the highest of the lowest tax bracket. So for example, let's say you need $100,000 of income and $50,000 is coming from Social Security, right? So the other $50,000 would come from your accounts. You'd follow this list potentially, right? You've exhausted your cash. You don't want to pull from your IRAs necessarily because you have more taxable income, but you want to pull 30 from that. It keeps you under the threshold, and the extra 20 you can pull from Roth. You're maximizing the highest of the lowest tax bracket. So a great strategy to bring up, I think, with your CPA, potentially sprinkle in for these 5 that I brought up. And I hope you enjoyed that today. If you did, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And always remember to make your money matter.